Hello everyone, this is Master Viktor Neustroev, and today we are going to have a workshop which is devoted to tactics. The topic of the workshop is blocking combinations, and instead of just finding tactical combinations, I also would like you to learn some strategy. So, for example, which actions should you take when you see that your opponent plays passively, especially if his pieces are crowded and they are surrounding his own king, and how you can take advantage of it. Okay, fine. So please let me know if everything works perfectly well. The sound should be good. We have a chat here. However, if you want to say anything, you can unmute your microphone and just ask a question or answer my questions that I'm going to ask. Okay, perfect. So I hope more people gonna join. That's why what? Let's wait. Let's wait for a couple minutes. And while we are waiting, let me just generally tell the main point. Okay. So when you okay, so what you should understand is that these tactical combinations or based on the blockade, so usually happen when the pieces are crowded and the king is blocked and doesn't have many squares to move to. And what you should do to create a combination, you can already initiate a tactical strike. For example, you can sacrifice a piece, you can create a pin and then add pressure on this pin. Sometimes it's even a double pin. You can also create a discovered attack or attract the enemy king or another enemy piece to the square that you need. And well, probably the most popular example of a blockading combination is a smothered mate, when the king is trapped in the corner and you deliver checkmate with your knight. Okay, so first of all, how to identify that in the position there can be such a combination? You look at the king, and if the king doesn't have many squares, then you probably can take advantage of that. Also, if you see that enemy pieces cannot defend their king's position in time. And you also see that uh, there are potentially open files, ranks, and diagonals that you can take advantage of, you can dominate, and these give you a hint. Okay, now just very important insight that I want you to remember. If you don't see a combination, if you don't see an immediate win, but you see that your opponent just got his pieces crowded, they are passive, he is not threatening anything, what you can try to do is just work on improvement of your pieces. Sooner or later, there will be a tactical decision. Your task is just to find it. But if you don't see it now, it doesn't mean that you should do it anyway or do a sacrifice and then hope that you win. Just improve your pieces. Occupy files or diagonals that are going to be open potentially. If you see that the enemy king is vulnerable, move your pieces there. If, for example, you see you can use your h pawn to attack the enemy king's position, play h4, play h5 after that, force the knight to go to h8, for example. Well, in this position, actually, h5 isn't a good move. Okay, let's start with this concrete position. It's white to move. What would you play? At the moment, there is no combination. It seems that the black king is well protected, but what comes to your mind? What you can do? G3 is very logical. Yes, I agree. So g3. So what, for example? I don't think they can play h5 because even if you just simply move the knight, you can just win this pawn and attack the knight. So yeah, well, it's a strong move for sure. Not the strongest one, but one of them. Okay, here Georgios suggests h5, but I actually am not a big fan of h5. Why? Because after knight f4, so here Georgios suggests to take, and I think that we should capture, but then this knight gets the e5 square. Yes, you can play knight d4, but they can go there too. And then you are limited. For example, you cannot bring the queen there. So maybe knight e6 still. Okay, rook f7 for a while. Then this move, but they play this move. I still believe... Oh, you can take on e4. I still believe that they are in trouble. Yeah, black is in trouble anyway. Okay, fine. So... Let me see. Actually, knight d4, knight e6 works. Maybe they can defend this with something else. I wonder if this works, but then the rook is trapped. Maybe they try g6 first, trying to drive the knight away. Well, it's so suspicious. After this move, I think you can just take once and play queen g4, threatening g6. Yes, it's so risky. Okay, fine. Actually, you don't have to take. You'd better play queen g4 right away, because how they defend it? Because they have this move and they protect there. Okay. Okay, I didn't see it. Well, okay, fine. Yeah, maybe g6 is a good move, but it seems that every move they can play is losing here. Fine. So in the game it was played knight h2, and in my position this move is better because this move contains a clear idea, clear tactical idea. So white is trying to improve pieces. You may ask me, why knight h2? Does the knight go to g4? Well, maybe, but that's not the main idea of knight h2 move. What do you think? With what idea behind knight h2 was played? Right. So with the idea of queen g4, which allows us to threaten h5 and then checkmate on g7, or knight h6, a discovered attack. What they could do? In the game here, black decided to play knight h4. That was a blunder. Well, maybe it actually was the best move. Knight h4, then knight takes knight, and they are piece down. So in 4 moves, they resigned. But let's try to find a better defense and realize how it works. So what I think, if knight h6 is coming with a check, probably it does make sense to continue with king h8. What's your idea? So how do you take advantage of the king being on the edge of the board? g7 is still vulnerable. Okay, so I'm waiting for your suggestions. Okay, so h5 and queen g4 and h5. Queen g4 and... Okay. If we try h5 right away, they move their knight to f4. G3 in this position. Before g3 and then h5. So maybe you can even do it. Actually, if you don't see a combination here, then g3 makes a lot of sense. Because h5 is a trap of this knight. So this is how you step by step improve your position. This is what I was telling in the very beginning. So if you don't see how to win immediately, step by step, improve your position, try to improve your pieces. Right now, for example, we just prevent knight f4 move with g3. Okay, yes, it's a winning move. Okay, there is also another idea of this move. Then knight f4, and in this position, the queen move to g4. How does it work? So maybe g5 works in this case. What's your opinion? Well, okay. So, yeah, g5 seems to work because if h takes, it's knight takes g6. But maybe first you'd better take with a bishop and then play queen g4. And if, let's say, how they can continue? They can continue with knight g5, actually. Yes, you can win a pawn, but it seems that we could get more than a pawn just. So the other idea is to play queen g4 first and then h5. Yes, I think it makes definitely more sense to start with queen to start with queen to g4. And what then? How they should defend, because h5 becomes a threat. Okay, Georgi suggests rook g8, then also suggested rook g8. Okay, so h5 becomes a threat. Let's see if there is anything else that can defend against this threat. Well, knight h6 is obviously a blunder. If knight h6 is played, then it's knight takes knight. The queens are retaking each other. So let's say knight h6, knight takes knight, queen takes g4, and the knight from h6 takes on g4, so extra piece. Rook g8. Yeah, rook g8 can be a defense. And if rook g8 is played, then what do you think? Can you come up with a winning tactical combination? The king is in the corner. Yeah. Right, so it's a double threat, and there is no such a move that could help to defend everything, for example, knight e5. So, well, if they take there, this is checkmate. If they take our knight, they lose their queen. And that's it. So, in case of king h8, the game would continue that way. Well, maybe king h8 was a wrong move. Let's try something else. For example, bishop d8, trying to connect the queen to the g7. Then queen g4 anyway, and now knight h6 is already a threat, and h5 still is a threat. There is no defense against it. So even such a slow move like knight h2 with the idea of queen g4 could allow us to win the game. Okay, knight h2, maybe queen c8 protecting the queen. Still, this move works, and this time there is no defense against h5. What can be done? Like a king move, still h5, and it's too late to defend g7. A knight move there, yes, but bishop takes on h6, and then h5. Nothing can be done. Okay, in the game it was this, and the game ended soon, so I don't really understand the purpose of f5 move, but they definitely needed more space. Maybe the idea was to take there, but they didn't take. Queen takes f5, and after queen g4, so white is easily winning. Okay, just a quick summary of this combination. Here, white realized that the king is in a trouble. The pieces are crowded around this king, and that's why there can be an attack on such a king. There can be an attack on g7, bringing with the queen on g4 and h5, and potentially there can be a smothered mate. Moreover, once the queen reaches g4, there is a discovered attack with knight h6. And in order to prepare these combinations, knight h2 was played. And then there is no defense against queen g4. For example, king h8, queen g4, and there are two threats, h5 and still knight h6. For example, if rook g8, then it's knight h6, and if queen takes queen, knight f7 is a very nice smothered mate. If not, if they take our knight, then we take their queen, and that's it. If they play something else, for example, instead of the king move, they play bishop d8. Then this is still a threat with knight h6. And even if they find how to protect the queen, h5 and queen g7 is coming. At least we win this knight on g6. So that was a result of the fact that black pieces were crowded around their king. Let's continue with the next example. So, okay, so which exact tips you are asking me about? I didn't analyze your game, so I don't know what you should work on and what time control you're going to play. Okay, how to make a middle game plan. At the moment, I mean, we are in the middle of the cycle of group lessons where we exactly study how to plan, how to come up with a plan. Okay, so it's a rapid time control. For rapid time control, I would say you should be very familiar with the openings you play, and you should understand middle game plans. In order to learn them, look at GM's games in this opening that you play. Just look at what they play. This is neither. Yes, I think so. It was neither. So this is a normal Sicilian position. But just at the very next move, white started playing awkwardly. They voluntarily paralyzed their own pieces. And that allowed black to win. So if you were white, actually, which move would you play here? What, in your opinion, looks logical? Of course, knight d5 looks logical. Yes, I agree. Knight d5, pawn takes d5, knight b8, then knight goes that way. f5, knight f6, it's very, very common. So the knight doesn't go to a5 because from a5 the knight doesn't have any squares. So c4 here, let's say. Okay, well, but what did white do? They played knight b1. A bit passive. They wanted knight d2, which again is a big secret for me. Why? Well, the next move that Mark Taimanov played was queen e8. Why queen e8? To add more pressure on e4. Moving the knight allows almost to win a pawn on e4. Knight bd2, defending it. Knight d8, the knight goes to e6, that makes the bishop open, the knight is better placed, and the c file is available to attack c2. So bishop d3, knight e6, rook c1, rook f c8. Black almost ideally placed their pieces, and now they are ready to invade the enemy camp. So it seems that some immediate actions should be taken by white immediately. Maybe they should already start with c4, try to initiate exchanges, and get the control over the d5 square. But again, they played passive moves like that. So your opponent plays passively. There is no tactics. Just step by step improve your position, exactly like Mark Taimanov did in this game. Knight goes to d7. Why the knight goes to d7? Because then this knight goes to c5. So knight f1, knight dc5, knight g3. Okay, so one knight on g3, the other knight maybe goes there. But if he goes there, then e4 becomes vulnerable. Okay, maybe the knight wanted to go there, and to prevent it, black continues with g6. What's your opinion? How white should continue here? Okay, so queen g4 is a move, c4 is a move, bishop g5 is a move for black. Maybe queen f3? b4 also. Okay, let's study them. So queen g4 looks interesting, but maybe very ambitious. So first of all, b4 probably not, because knight a4, bishop moves, and we can always play this move. But before doing that move, I would suggest doing this. Why I didn't play knight a3? Because I can do it at any other moment. And then the bishop has to take. Otherwise, it's a bad bishop, or even the queen can be trapped. So black seems to be much, much better here. So b4 is not a candidate move. What else? Well, c4 drops the bishop. I don't think it's a good idea. You also may lose a rook. In that position, knight h5, I don't think you have enough defenders. So then what? Rook a3, rook g3? I think it's too late. I think it's too late. Well, how can I continue? Let me play this move. The queen is hanging, queen h6. So even if you play this move, it's not sufficient. Oh. How to continue? Oh, actually, I want to play this move and set my bishop there. This is how I'm really well defended. And even if you do rook e3 and rook g3, you still cannot win. I would love to bring the queen back, but right now it's not possible. The black pieces are far away, but which of your pieces can attack? If the knight comes, I just take there. Well, but queen h6? Then you can play knight g6 maybe. Yeah, looks like a plan. Why not? But I want to bring more pieces to the place of action. So, to the king side. So maybe the other rook goes. Okay, so which move to play for black in this position? d3? This is hanging. With checkmate. So that's why I think knight g6, but maybe you don't have to spend this tempi. It's still good. Knight g6 is still good, but maybe you have a better way to play. So let me see. Yeah, the pieces are a bit far. f6. Now you hang the knight potentially. So queen g4, let's say. Then you have to play what? King f7, but yeah. So but and then queen c8 actually maybe, yeah. So this rook e8 and then queen c8 and then with knight g5 you can trade pieces. Yeah, that may work, yeah. But just let me give me a sec. Maybe I'll find something. Now let's start with this move, and then I want to take on a4. I think the bishop has to take. Then I take there. This is still not a move. I just take on d3, for example. And then knight g5. No, then knight g5. No, if this move, then I think I should do like that. This is enough to defend h7. And if knight g5, it's... But then knight g5. Queen f7. So I think you should first take there. Oh yeah, actually it works. And then you take rook on g3. Yes, it works. Yes, so bishop e5 when, but there, yeah, bishop e4 in the end. So this sacrifice doesn't work. Okay, there is rook f1. Well, yeah, but it seems to be very unsound. What else? So c4 wasn't a candidate move. Queen g4. Queen g4 was a nice idea, actually. I didn't check it out. Queen g4, then I can take on d3, can I? Does it make sense, actually? Well, but this is... then the position is too crowded, and d4 becomes more vulnerable then. So, well... uh-huh. Bishop e2, and if I take... Yeah, bishop e2 blocks the queen, so if to play, then bishop f1 probably. No, not now. What for? Take, then you play bishop f3. Maybe you have bishop b5. It looks better than bishop f3, because bishop f3, I just moved the queen. Yes, it looks better, but still, I don't think it's a good position. So let's say where queen h4, for example. Now the bishop is hanging. My next move is this, and then I take on c2. So you have to play bishop here. What do you mean? The queen is hanging. No, I don't think we could. Now the queen is hanging. We cannot take with the queen on c2. So queen h4, and then bishop g5 and knight f4 is coming. So I think it's quite promising. But actually, I'm not forced to take. So I can just play just some random moves. What the bishop is doing there. The position is crowded. It's hopeless. So having the bishop there and bringing the queen out makes more sense. But if the queen goes out, like it is in this position, so what can I do? Can I try this? Then I'm threatening to take there and at some point capture here. So let's say rook goes that way. Maybe just this move. Threatening to take with two knights. So the bishop must move. I don't know. Maybe knight e6 just threatening to take. Well, it's still a very tough position. h5 also becomes a threat after that. It's protected by the knight. Yeah, so white is definitely better. So, well, white didn't understand what they are doing. So I think b4 was a possible move. And their position is not completely losing after knight a4. Knight f3. Ah, so giving up the exchange. Black pieces are too far. Okay. So, Zamfir, let's check it out. Okay. So, bishop g5, you said knight f3. I want to win exchange. In which way? I want to win exchange in that way, I think. Let me see. Maybe here first. Yeah, maybe here first. Then you have to take it. Let's say with a bishop. Then I take there. So this means it's game over. So maybe you'll sacrifice even more. The knight must take. Well, maybe not, but okay, let's say the knight takes. King h7. No, king h7, queen h4. Okay, I'm sure it's defendable. This is a... What's the purpose? I would like to keep the knight defending the position. Why knight d4? To take on c2? Now let's play something logical like rook e8, knight h5, queen d8. There is no bishop g5 move. There is no knight f6 move. Queen f3, I can play knight d4 with a tempo, so I'm in time. Actually, queen f3, I can also just take on h5 or play queen h4 first. So giving up sacrifice is not giving up the exchange isn't a good idea. So they play knight e2, but this move is bad too. Bishop g5 anyway, knight c3 and knight d4. So white is just maneuvering, trying to improve his pieces, but black improves his pieces in reality. So the bishop is better there. The knight is in the center. Black at the moment doesn't understand. Yeah, just a sec. So here, black is improving their position, even not understanding which tactical strike he may initiate. He just thinks, okay, so I gonna improve, and the tactical opportunity will appear in the future. Okay, so which position should I... Oh, even the 5 plan works. I doubt. It's a very suspicious move. So I still don't believe it's a good idea. So let's say this. King h2 or king h1? Let's do this. Rook moves. Yes, and then I can do this. Pawn takes to not lose a pawn. Then I invade your camp. Then I'm threatening with this and this. So it seems like it's a disaster. You can try rook e2. Just a sec, let me think. This is coming. You cannot. You still cannot. So you can only play h4. King h1, okay. h5. Queen d1, queen f2. So there are problems. So you have to play the only moves then. So I think that this is definitely winning. So which move should I play in this position? Let's decide. Rook c2, no. G5, yes. G5 looks like a move. Yeah, G5, G4, and then I can try to open the... But that's okay, you can take it. Okay, let me think. Yeah, but the rook can also take. Maybe G5, bishop C1. Oh, let's just play like that. Oh, well, I'm threatening to take on F3 or H3, which is already a problem. With which piece? Ah, knight F4, queen G4. Yeah, that can be a problem. I missed it. Yeah, so it doesn't work. So if so, then G5 is slow. Okay, so let's just do this move. So you play there, and I bring my knight. And then I will prepare this. Which piece start? Knight to knight. Okay, so then pawn. Then I will advance here. So I think I missed something because so here it was definitely open. No, then you can activate your queen, so you are still losing, but I think there were better chances in this position. So this no f3 is it was knight f4 maybe better. Maybe knight f4 was better actually. So this king, what, h2? So I played bishop g5, but maybe knight f4 should be played with invasion here. I don't know even what to suggest because this move doesn't work. Now this is how black seems to be winning. Okay, anyway, so f3 isn't a good idea. It weakens too many dark squares, and your dark squared bishop is further from the place of action, while this dark squared bishop can be here, here, and even here, and the queen can join the enemy camp using the light squares. Okay, so there is, what, bishop f1 idea? It seems very, well, bishop f1, bishop g5 then. And at some point I want to take here. Anyway, well, this is okay, so you want to continue with the analysis, fine. So bishop f1, bishop g5, knight f3, take. There is no compensation. You can take there, but my pieces are already closer to the place of action. It's losing. No, take on d6. Okay, take on d6. Then I take on c2, and on the next move I take there. Oh, there. Well, you can play bishop e3, but it still seems to be losing. How can I play? I have this move, I have that move. I have queen f3 directly. It's a pleasant choice. But to be honest, I don't know what is better. Knight g5 maybe is better. Knight g5 is better. So take. I don't know, queen e5, queen f3. Bishop g2, queen a7. No, it's extra exchange. The king is safe. There is not much to talk about. Okay, so knight d2 was played. It's not a very good move at all. So bishop g5, knight goes to c3, and the knight goes to d4. Black improves their position, and even f5 becomes a threat. And here it seems white doesn't understand what's going on. So white plays knight cb1. Maybe to use the c pawn, maybe to open the bishop and take on d4. What they could try was still this, then knight takes, pawn takes, and then maybe a5. So a4, just take there, take here, or maybe some invasion in future. Even bishop d2, knight b3 becomes already a threat. But if so, I don't want to sacrifice on h6. So here I would first do prophylaxis and then continue with the same strategy. This time I would prefer to save the pawn. So, but knight cb1 was played in the game. So your opinion, how black should continue in this position? White pieces are really passive. Their position is crowded, but at the same time, we cannot say that their king is too weak because the king has a lot of squares to escape. So there is no smothered mate. Now let's decide how to play. Knight d3 and knight b3. But you cannot take on b3. F. What do you mean? So knight d3, how they play? The rook is hanging, so they have to take. But now knight b3 fails because they take on b3 and protect on c1. Right? So they have enough defenders. So if you take there, then they replace one knight with the other knight. So knight d3 works, but here you'd better take first and then just invade the enemy camp. That would work. F5 is a good idea, but instead of F5, there is a similar move which is a little better. Why can't they take with the queen? Because there is a rook on the c file. Bishop c6 trying to bring the bishop. Okay, there is a better move to activate this bishop. Okay, knight d3, this, why they don't take with the queen? They take with the bishop because there is a queen, there is another rook. Yes, the move is d5 just. So opening the position, it's better than f5 because it doesn't create weaknesses, but it still opens the bishop. So now they cannot defend it. I don't think f3 is a good move, but such a move was played later anyway. So take knight d3 first, bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes, and finally bishop d5, attacking g2. So this creates many weaknesses on the light squares. I even think that it loses immediately. I wonder about this move, because the knight is pinned. And if f3 it was played in, it could be, yeah, f3 can be played in this position, but then it seems to me that bishop f3 is sufficient because knight takes and rook c1 is coming. And then knight f3 with a check. So should be winning. That's why here they play f3. Your turn. Okay, so Brian suggests queen e7. I think it's a good move, but is it the best move? The king goes to h1, let's say. Knight c2. And then knight e3. The e5 pawn is vulnerable. So rook c2. Yeah, rook c2 first, then queen e7. And after this move, it's a Zugzwang. How to play? Because every move loses something. So for example, rook e5, queen e7. Even if not queen e7, queen c6, attacking this. And how do they defend it? If they protect it, you can take. There is. Queen c6, but then they can move the bishop at least and take here. So with rook c2, you paralyze the bishop and pin the knight, because if they move the knight, you just take there instantly. So they 'Knight b3 winning the pawn, but you win the pawn only. So knight, then bishop c1, but you still are only a pawn up. Look, it's just one pawn. So queen c6 wins a piece, but rook c2, then rook e5, and queen c6 wins the piece. Maybe queen e7 works even better, because if they take there, it's checkmate with queen g2, let's say. So maybe they don't play something else, but how? Let's say king h1. Then what to play? This looks like a double attack, but then rook e8 or rook e1 can be played. Rook e1. Queen c. Yes. Yeah, that's why probably queen c6 is just better, because they lose it. Okay, so the game continued with a4, b4, and it still is Zugzwang. They played this move, and now queen c6. And again, this is where they resigned, because they just didn't know what to play. Do you have any ideas which move to suggest? Because it seems that, well, king g1, then rook c1. King h2, then bishop f4. What to suggest? Knight b3 is a threat already. Knight b3, bishop b3. Actually, maybe if king h2, then knight b3 is a better move. This is vulnerable, so they have to take, you take, and you threaten with this. What other move to suggest? Let me see what the engine suggests. Okay, the engine suggests the best move is king g1, but we know it fails because of rook c1. Okay, a5, again, just bishop f4, and the moves are over. So in such a position, with a lot of pieces on the board, white is already in the Zugzwang. Every move they play loses something. The bishop can also come here, for example. Or the knight can come there and there, because this is still pinned. So they cannot cover g3. Okay, so let's do a quick summary of this game. So what did happen in this game? That was just a normal Sicilian position, but starting from this moment, white was playing awkwardly. They played knight b1 instead of just occupying this square and then capturing with the pawn. Black didn't know exactly what to do, but at least tried to improve his pieces. So the queen adds pressure on e4. The knight is remaneuvering to the e6 square, after which the rook can add more pressure on c2. This knight goes to c5 to capture there and potentially attack c2 or just invade c2. Any counter attack on the king side was parried, so that's why white started making serious mistakes like knight e2. Their position was crowded, they didn't improve it, and black did improve by playing bishop g5. They created a pin. The next move was knight d4. The knight attacks a lot of squares in the enemy camp, and b4 probably was the last chance for them to try to equalize the position. However, even after b4 it's really bad, but they played knight cb1, putting the knight back, probably just to defend on d2, and as the result of such a poor placement, black decided to open the position with d5 and add pressure to the king's position, as well as take advantage of this pin and capture on d3. So pawn takes, knight takes d3, there was a rook trade, bishop d5 attacking g2, f3 is a must, and after the rook's invasion, the position is an zogged one. So any move means the game is over, including rook e5, which would fail because of queen c6. Now, if the rook goes back to defend, there is this combination. This is typically what happens if your opponent plays passively. You improve your pieces, and at a certain moment of the game, you will find a tactical combination. It's just an internal logic of chess. Fine, let's... So here, no, not yet. Is it hanging? So that's why knight c3 was played. Knight e4 just here. No, there was no chance to play like that. Fine, the next example. The game between Efim Bogolyubov and Alexander Alekhine. Well, black to move. Which move would you suggest? There are a lot of options, and black is clearly better, but there is one special plan that guarantees a winning position. White pieces again are poorly placed. Two knights here, the bishop. The rook is not really doing much. However, for now, they control the A file. Mm-hmm. So b4 is a candidate move. I think that's right. b4 should be played. It breaks the connection. Breaks, yeah, the communication among pieces. Okay, this, right. Then what they can play? In the game, they took, and we are going to analyze it. The only other option is this, queen e1. After which, what you should do is just to invade the enemy camp, and then you take advantage of a passed pawn. So knight b3, because if they take, you can invade the enemy camp instantly. So this move, queen a5, knight a5, well, rook a8 is good, but then it leads to rook a2, which is still fine. You can continue with b3. There was queen h5 also, I agree, but that move wasn't... well, black still had advantage after that. We will discuss it a little later. Bishop a4 instead, attacking this knight. And now, after knight b2, rook e8. So if they take there, you take here. And still invade the enemy camp. And if, let's say, knight b7, what do you think? How to play? Knight g4 in this position or what? Knight g4, they can do what? Can they take on d3? Maybe there is a better move. You have this passed pawn. So let's focus on it. There is a knight that blocks it, and if you trade knights, there will be rook blocking the b pawn. Bishop c6, maybe just knight c5 works. Okay, so there is a nice suggestion of this move. Rook takes, then you play rook a1. And if king g2, it's knight e1, you win the rook. But in this position, it's possible to continue with king h2, but then knight g4, and the still king goes there, and knight, actually knight e3 this time. So bishop c2, look at this move. The bishop becomes poisoned. Capturing there doesn't make much sense, because if so, you deliver it. No, you take first. You take here first, and then you threaten with rook a1 and knight g4, or knight g4 first, then rook a1. And this is a passed pawn, and this is also a passed pawn that nobody can stop. Well, because the bishop is blocked, there is no discovered attack. Even if they take there, the c pawn is very close to Aquinian square. That's why even if they take your rook, it doesn't work. So bishop c2 was a super move. Okay, let's go back. Let's discuss queen h5. So queen h5. If g4, f takes g4, knight f1, and g3 still works. It's hard to suggest a move then. Okay, so maybe knight f2 in this position. How would you continue? Because this move, or what? Well, this move might maybe just take on d3. Knight e1. So knight e4, knight g2, knight f6, rook f6, bishop. No, rook f6 is a blunder. So pawn takes. Yeah, so actually you may play queen h5, but if you then combine this idea with the b4 move, and then you can invade the enemy camp. When the queen is not here, everything is hanging, so they may try to make a discovered attack, like knight d3, for example. However, then there is a check on e3. Then you take, and you also continue with this move, so it should be winning. Actually, if king f1, I think you'd better take with the queen. So this move, then, well, queen g3. It's anyway winning. So, but a lot depends on b4. So queen h5 with the idea of b4 works well. Fine. Okay, so b4 was played, and they took on e8. And this is where there is nothing wrong with this. Queen b3, queen a1. This is definitely winning position. But if that was played, black would win, and this game wouldn't be so interesting for us. In the game, black decided to take on c3. The rook is hanging, so rook takes queen. And now your turn. What do you think in this position Alexander Alekhine had in mind? Right, so it's c2. And when you play c2, you threaten to promote with two ways: by advancing the pawn further or by capturing the knight. And if there is no piece or only one, for example, that can cover both squares, then you promote. This is exactly what happened in the game. So this king moves, then they save the knight, and you can promote. Well, this seems to be a blunder. So king h2, I think, loses. You just take on d2. So that's why they played the knight f1, defending their position. In fact, well, if you look at the board and compare material, they have two rooks and the pawn to compensate the queen. Usually it's sufficient, but because the position of the king is crowded, you can play knight e1. Rook comes to h2 and queen c4. No, knight f3 doesn't work. Let's keep this bishop bad. And what do you think then black wants? So let's say rook b8, your turn. Bishop b5, right, bishop b5, and if knight d2, it's queen c1. Attacking here, so rook takes, knight f3 double check, king moves queen g1, king moves queen h2 mate, like that. So what else to play? Bishop g2, what about bishop g2? What's your opinion? Knight g2, but knight g2, maybe they take on b5 after that. Well, yeah, knight g2 may work. Knight f3 also works. If they take, queen f1 is mate. If they play this move, then just let's save the bishop because the rook is trapped. So the rook can move. How can we play? Well, I like queen e2 move, let's say, threatening two pieces. This knight just cannot move. Okay, fine. So knight f3 check. Okay, thanks. So rook b5 was played. Queen b5, g4, and then knight f3. And a few moves they resigned. Here there is no material to compensate. Queen e2 was played. So this pawn is dangerous. Well, actually they resigned a little later, but it's already a winning position. At least you can do this and then take. If e4, you take on f4. Okay, let's do a quick summary. So what did happen in this position? In this game, black had a better pieces placement. Look at white pieces. They are not really doing much. However, they control the A file. And on the one hand, well, trying to invade the enemy camp through h5 works. But then the key idea is to still invade the enemy camp through the A file. That's why black decides to start with this idea right away. And with b4, they break the connection. So if queen a1, it's possible just to trade and offer a trade of queens and still invade the enemy camp. That's why white took on e8. It's fine to capture on e8 with the queen and still continue playing it, but black decided to play aggressively. They took their queen, sacrifices their own queen on e8, but after c2, they promote the pawn to the queen anyway. So finally, in this position, after a promotion, white seemed to have enough material compensation for the queen. But their position is crowded and their pieces are bad. So knight is pinned, the rook is trapped, the bishop is trapped. And this is what black took advantage of by maneuvering their knight to e3, f3, and bringing the bishop to the attack with bishop b5, after which they had to sacrifice material, and now there is no full compensation for the queen, and because of that, white is completely losing. This is what happened in the game, and soon white resigned. Okay, fine. This is our last example. Actually, a very nice example with a very nice checkmate at the end. However, before we continue with this, I would like you to know that if you enjoy this content, you can support me by sending a donation using this button. For example, if you have PayPal, let me copy the link. How it works: you just click the button, then you enter the amount that you want to donate. Any amount is acceptable. Then you click PayPal, it redirects you to your PayPal account, you enter it, and then this is how you can send money directly to me. The second way is just to use Wise. So using this link, especially, it works especially for Europeans. Well, actually, it works for Americans too, but most Europeans usually have Wise. Fine. Let's continue with our main topic. We have one more game to review. Okay, this position. Well, I'm sure here you can come up with a move. Well, here black is a pawn down already. This is a dangerous pawn on d6, but how dangerous is it? I don't think they can go d7, and on d8 we definitely control it. The bishop is bad, our pieces are slightly better, so can you please guess which move we should play here? I'm sure Brian knows what to play here. I'm 100% that if Brian was playing this game for black, he would play this exact move. Okay, so the obvious one, okay, so the suggestions are b5 and take, and queen d6. Fine, what else? Yeah, I think this move allows us to equalize. For sure, b5 is interesting. I don't know how it works. Probably not well, because after knight e5 the pawn is still protected. Bishop d5? Bishop d5, I don't see the point. What for? Can they play e4? No, I was talking about knight g4 move. So this is the typical move that you usually do in your games. Like knight g5, knight g4. Why? Threatening with queen h4. Who can tell me what black prepared against this? h3. Is it bishop? Knight f2, you mean? Yes, it's knight f2. Yeah. Yeah. So knight f2, king f2, queen here. Then you take there, or you can take with a queen if you want. I would prefer to keep queens on the board, because with bishops of opposite color you can potentially attack the king, and oh, they have to play g3, so that's, yes, and then you have to take with a queen. I don't think there is a mate, because if they do anything else it's definitely a blunder. If they move their king to g1 they lose a rook, so g3 is a must. Well, queen f6, then you cannot take the knight, so let's take the knight right away. Or maybe this, actually, because after this it's this, and these pawns are doubled, and d6 is lost. Because to not lose this pawn they have to play that, but then they lose this pawn. Well, I'm not sure, maybe they lose it. f5, f5. But there is bishop f4, so I wonder if we can start with this move. Then, because e5 now, oh, it doesn't fail because there is a promotion. Okay. Yeah, maybe just f6 to stop it. And then you cannot take it. There is bishop f4 and you don't win it. But yeah, probably it's a drawish position anyway. Okay, fine. So taking, I don't think there is a difference. Let's quickly go over these lines. c4, so queen moves, and then knight d5, and you threaten to take it. And f4, because now bishop g5 is coming, or bishop f4 and rook d1. No, the b5 isn't a good move. Okay, so knight g4 was played, and probably they have to defend it with queen e2. If bishop c4, it's queen g4. And if queen h4, then h3, and knight f2 works. But then the position is even, e4, and it's almost the same that we already analyzed. So, but in the game it was rook e2, and this is a bit artificial move. It's not so natural. They protect on f2, but can we take advantage of that? How would you proceed here? Well, I don't think this is a good move actually. So they have to play h3. You can continue with knight f2. Then rook takes f2. Okay, let's check it out. So this, well, this is a must. Knight f2 taking the queen. Then bishop c4 is coming. So rook takes, bishop c4, queen f5. Oh, well, the d pawn exists, so that seems like a problem. Okay, so queen h4 still works, but there is a better move. You can win a pawn, but keep the queens on the board and neutralize. Well, how can you neutralize the pawn on d6? So yes, you can do bishop c4, and you don't have knight e5. Queen c4, queen d6 immediately, because if queen g4, there is a back rank mate. So that, which queen d7? What for? With queen b5 idea. Okay, so what can I do instead? Well, let's stick to it. So queen b5. Now the knight moves. So you can take, probably it's the best move, because what else? Your queen is hanging. And your knight is hanging. So knight takes, then if the knight moves, I'm still a pawn up, but maybe you can try this move. However, I don't see how it works. So take, c4. Seems like a drawish position. Okay. Then maybe in this position, just this. There is no c4. The knight has to move, and then it's knight e5. White is better. But you're a pawn down, and I'm not sure if you can save it, and maybe c5 is a weakness in that scenario. So bishop c4 right away, and then queen d6 threatening back rank mate. That's why they have to play g3. But g3 already tells you that f3 is a weak. And let's take advantage of it by playing this move. Because queen d1 can win a rook, they have to move their queen and protect it. So queen b5, a6, queen b2, or queen a2 directly, like it was played in the game. Queen g6, taking advantage of the weakness of the light squares. For example, if let's say this move, knight f3 and king g2, you can continue with this. If the king goes somewhere else, you can just win a pawn. For example, king f2, you take the pawn. If he goes there, then it's queen e4 with a discovered attack. For example, this double check, the king moves, and then you just move it here, support, and dominate in this position. So that's why after queen g6, they took a proper decision to play e4 to control light squares and let the bishop out. Rook a d8, bishop f4. Knight f3 check, this, and queen defends. Well, h3 fails. Oh, well, actually h3 was played, knight h4, and in this position they have to move their king back to g1. But if they move to g1, you can just move your queen here, threatening mate, and if they take there, you take here. And black is playing for a win. So white has some defensive resources, but maybe they lose a pawn on e4 then. But they played king h2. So your turn, how to continue? Yeah, you can still do queen f3. And the best way was to take on h4, after which you take the bishop and continue your attack. But the game continued with rook g1, and this is where I want you to focus and suggest how exactly black won that game. Again, their pieces are surrounding the king. The king has no squares to escape, and we can take advantage of that. So, your turn. Okay, so rook d3 suggested by Alan to bring our friends to the party. So in my opinion, rook d1 works, but let's see. So rook d1, then rook e3, for example. Does it work? The f2 is still protected. Actually, it still works. How does how in this position black wins? Well, then why it works? That's fine. We are going to continue with your line a little later. Well, in this position, yes. In this position, you have... Oh, you were talking about this position. I thought you were talking about the previous. No. You are talking about this exact position. Okay, I realized it. Yeah, now queen g2 fails. But there is a simple move. It's just rook takes g1, like Georgios suggested. So, and then what? So if they take, it's easy checkmate. If they take there, then this is checkmate. So rook d1 works, but that wasn't the most forced way to deliver checkmate. After rook d1, you have to calculate other lines, like what happens if they take. Of course, it's not difficult, but the simplest was just queen g2 right away. Rook takes g2, knight f3, king moves, and then rook d1. There is not much to analyze. So, yeah, okay. So with this move order, black delivers an Arabian checkmate by making moves with checks only. So that's why it's much easier to calculate. Queen g2, knight f3, and rook d1. That was a result of the poor pieces placement, passive position, and the weakness of the king. Okay, fine. Let's do a quick summary. So in this approximately equal position, black is down a pawn. He can always win it back with... Okay, once again. So in this position, black is down a pawn, and he can always win it back with bishop for a knight trade and queen d6, but he decided to complicate the position, starting with knight g4, having in mind this or that move with queen h4 and winning the knight. White decided to defend the f2 with rook e2 move, after which bishop c4, queen c4, and queen d6, threatening a back rank mate and checkmate on h2. That provoked g3. And because of g3, the light squares are weak. After a few moves, black managed to get the control over the light squares with their queen and knight, and then invaded the enemy camp with their queen. The best way for white was just to give up the bishop for a knight and then maybe lose several pawns more, but it still was playable. However, they played rook g1 to cover this and missed a very nice tactical opportunity with queen g2, knight f3, and then a rook check, which led to checkmate. Okay, fine. So what I want you to remember from today's workshop is that, well, even if your opponent didn't surround his king, if he didn't make his position cramped, if his pieces are not crowded on a certain part of the board, try to improve your position step by step, improve your pieces. If he doesn't have active plan, this is what you should do. And at a certain moment, you will realize that your opponent doesn't have space, you have it, and you will obtain tactical opportunities. For example, in all these games, well, here knight g4 helped us. In the second game that we were analyzing, there was d5 move, which opened the position and allowed our pieces to create several attacks. In this position, it was mainly b4 that broke the connection and could allow us to invade the enemy camp or promote the c pawn. Okay, fine. Do you have any questions? If not, let's finish for today. So see everyone on our next workshop next Sunday. And on Friday, we have a group class. So those of you who are enrolled, don't forget about it. We have like how many? 4 sessions left there. Okay, so thank you for coming and see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.